Hello everybody, good afternoon. My name is Monique and I will be talking about caffeine dependency today. So we are taking an addictions course, and part of that course was to give up something that we were dependent on, or something we felt was we needed to give up, or try to give up at least. So I chose to give up caffeine, and so I'm going to be talking about caffeine addiction, or dependency. It is widely recognized in the DSM-5 as a substance dependency, and I think it's something that we are not totally aware of, because generally our society is very dependent upon coffee. If you drove by a Dutch Brothers or Starbucks, there's always a line, and there's that need for caffeine. Part of that is the physiological effects of caffeine. It does have negative side effects if you do try to immediately withdraw from it. That which I found out this semester. Still haven't 100% given up caffeine, which is not a bad thing. It's actually part of harm reduction, which is important to understand about caffeine dependency, is that it's highly, by doctors, even not recommended to go cold turkey. Part of that is because of the tolerance that's involved in caffeine dependency. So the more intake of caffeine, the higher the tolerance, therefore the bigger the withdrawal. So part of those symptoms are going to be really bad headaches that range from mild to severe migraines. The larger the tolerance, or the higher the tolerance, the longer it's going to take to basically wean yourself off of the caffeine. Some of the implications are negative symptoms, of course. So a lot of times the studies have shown that there's a feeling of depression, there's feelings of irritability, sleep deficits, of course, that are recognized with using, not with withdrawal. But it can be if you try to suddenly withdraw, because then that craving is going to be a lot higher and you're going to have a higher intake. So I thought this was very interesting when it comes to how our society functions. We are a very fast-paced society, and some of the studies have shown that although a lot of the adults don't feel like it's an issue, it actually is a very huge upcoming issue for children and adolescents. The reason being is that the more caffeine taken in at a younger age, the more effects it will have on the brain as far as their ability to concentrate and their anxiety levels. So in my case, I had been given caffeine since I was about 5 years old. It was actually cultural, not seen as anything bad. My grandma would make her coffee, hand me my own cup of coffee, and that was just how we spent our morning. Not knowing that I was actually developing a dependency from a very young age, which is why it was very difficult for me to just cold turkey it and give up caffeine. Along with those studies for children and adolescents, is the importance to understand that children and adolescents nowadays, and I'm talking about American culture, have some very high standards as far as academia and how it is approached, which is a TED Talk for another day. But we're very testing based, we're very results based, and so children no longer have as much playtime, and with that goes less actually time for sleep. So teenagers and children as young as elementary school, 2nd, 3rd grade, are drinking energy drinks to concentrate, to kind of control, basically being able to do homework and sit down for extended amounts of time, which is interesting because caffeine, we think, as a stimulant, of course, would make them hyper and things. And so kids nowadays have less attention span, and a lot of the studies are showing that's linked to a lot of the caffeine usage, their inability to concentrate. So it's actually having negative effects for children and adolescents, because long-term use, they're building up these tolerances. They're also having mild heart attacks, because it's causing their heart to palpitate a lot faster than it normally would. Sorry, I'm using my phone and I get 1,000 messages popping up. So with that is the concern that over time, a lot of these negative physiological effects on children and teens long term will change the way their brain anatomy is. Basically, they're going to be very anxious adults, very irritable adults, because children need sleep. Teenagers need even more sleep, and that's something that we don't give them enough of because of these caffeinated beverages. Now, there's been standards for certain drinks because it was causing so many children to have these heart attacks or just chest pains, you know, these breakdowns, basically their body breaking down and not being able to function because they've been going for so long. They reach these exhaustion points. It's also well known with students that is another thing, that caffeine is basically this stimulant overused by students, and sleep disturbances, which cause mood swings. So very important to know that if you are starting to be very irritable and can't understand why, it's good to evaluate how much coffee you're taking in, how much caffeine. Energy drinks are very popular. They also have a lot of sugar. So on top of the negative effects of caffeine, you're also getting a lot of the weight gained from the sugar that's not being burnt off. Whoa. That's not being burnt off from lack of exercise. A lot of times there's a lot of co-occurring issues. So a lot of times you're taking in a lot of caffeine and sugar, you're doing it to do schoolwork or busy work or even work at a job. So you're not taking the caffeine as a pre-workout. It's actually, the caffeine is to actually function throughout the day, which becomes a problem because number one, you're keeping your body from sleeping. Number two, you're intaking a whole lot of sugar that you would normally be taking in with food. So people tend to eat less when they drink more caffeine, which is kind of scary, because then when they do eat, they're very hungry and they're not eating things that are very healthy. So it's almost this negative cycle of unhealthy eating. And also some of the studies showed that there's a higher correlation between caffeine dependency and dependency on other substances. For example, alcohol intake and caffeine intake are very correlated. So a lot of times if you have a predisposition to be caffeine dependent, you also have a predisposition to be dependent on another type of substance. This is important because a lot of co-occurring issues are things that we would not tie back to caffeine. Caffeine can kind of be like a warning sign, basically used as in a way to evaluate if you are predisposed genetically to addictive tendencies. So if you tend to need caffeine to function, that's a good red flag of maybe I do have some of these genetic tendencies. I should evaluate other areas of my consumption of substances and kind of evaluate how much of a hold they have upon me. When it comes to treatment, as far as not many people think that it's a problem, I would say that it's really about harm reduction when it comes to caffeine, and slowly weaning yourself off of the caffeine, if that's something you do want to do. If you want to slow down, it's really known with anxiety, and so if you notice you're getting anxious, you're having problems concentrating, you're not yourself, mood swings, irritability, inability to sleep, then I would recommend, yes, you do need a lower intake of caffeine. So one of the ways to do that is to really lower the intake gradually. So go from your 5 cups to 4 for a week, and then, you know, gradually, slowly wean yourself off of it rather than cold turkey, because you will have some really bad physical side effects, and a lot of times that's what deters a lot of people from reducing their intake. Now, sleep is the #1 component that you want restored, because the brain needs to it needs to rebuild itself. It has to heal itself. The body needs to have enough time to do what it needs to do while you're sleeping, to regenerate for the next day. And I think that's something that as a society, we don't let ourselves rest, and we become exhausted, and we overall are overworked, tired, And so caffeine is kind of like a go-to to keep going, when in reality your body needs the rest. And in order to function mentally as well and have the capacity, cognitive skills, I think a lot of things can be reduced if we did allow ourselves to sleep. But most importantly, allowing children, adolescents to sleep, because long term that can be very scary as far as to their health issues. It's linked to childhood obesity. It's linked to this irritability and inability to concentrate. Therefore, they have lower test skills. Whereas one would think, oh, they would do better. They don't generally do better because their brain is overfiring, and so everything they're retaining is going in one ear out the other, and they cannot sit down and concentrate for very long. Now this is different for different, for example, ADHD is a different component. Caffeine actually sometimes has the opposite effect. So not for all children, but the studies were kind of generalizing children and teens in that age group of about 7 to 17, 18, tend to have negative effects over long term. So just something to be aware of when it comes to addiction. Another thing to be aware of when weaning yourself off is to give yourself something else to do. So a lot of times, if you're doing it for health reasons, replacing it with a healthier diet, higher energy foods, antioxidants, things that are going to give you the natural energy that you would require, and give your body a lot of those things back, would really help you in the long run. I know if you are aware that you are genetically just have that predisposition of substance abuse, then again, it's all about harm reduction. So if caffeine is something that's keeping you from doing something more harmful, then I think by all means you would want to, of course, talk to a doctor, talk to a dietitian, and get feedback as far as what you can do to gain more high energy foods, and keep those energy levels high. A lot of times you'll realize is that sleep is the key. Sleep will help you. It'll go a long way. You'll feel a lot better once you get some rest. I know that's true for myself. I've gone from generally drinking like 2 or 3 energy drinks or 3 or 4 coffees a day to down to just 1, and I've seen a huge difference when it comes to my sleep cycle. Replacing morning breakfast, adding like blueberries, adding a lot of high iron foods has also helped. So I think overall it's a matter of really weighing out, how is caffeine affecting me? Am I dependent? So is this something that I feel like I need and it's taking me over, and it's keeping me from concentrating, it's making me anxious, it's not allowing me to sleep. Stomach irritability, so irritable bowel syndrome, there's also just digestive issues, GERD, so the reflux as well, acid reflux. Those are all things to be aware of that can be tied back to the caffeine usage. I think overall, when it comes to caffeine dependency, is just to just be aware of it, and if it does become a problem as far as sleep, mood swings, those are the things you want to look for. If it's really causing an issue with your relationships with others, then definitely want to look into kind of reducing the amount of caffeine that you're taking in. I thought this was really interesting to research, because there's such a boom in energy drinks and Dutch Brothers and Starbucks, and even protein bars have caffeine in them now. There's so many things out there, 5-hour energy, and we do live some really fast-paced lives. We have to work, we have to go to school, we have to manage our children if you have children, or if you're in high school, of course there's like longer or more work requirements as far as what needs to be done, as well as with children. Their schoolwork is getting a lot more difficult, so it's also important to evaluate with children. Personally, I wouldn't recommend caffeine unless it was directed by a doctor for other reasons, but I don't recommend caffeine usage in children or teens, just because of the way their brains are developing, and you don't want to this car go by. You don't want to hinder the amount of sleep or their sleep cycle. I don't think that's healthy for them. Children typically need 10 to 12 hours to sleep. Teenagers sometimes even more than that. And so if we are giving our teens and children, they're not going to properly develop to their fullest potential, not do as well in school, and same thing with adults. So I think I've kind of repeated that twice, but I think that's the most important aspect of the whole study that I found. And I think I've gained a lot of knowledge as far as, really seeing how different things, it doesn't have to be something that's stigmatized as really bad to be an addiction. Really, it's what's causing you to have dependency, and what you need to be aware of as far as how you can change that. And so hopefully this was useful information. I know it's caffeine, it's not anything hardcore, but over time it can have some really serious health issues that can be associated with it. So it's always good to be aware of. If you consider yourself generally healthy or not sure why you're getting sick or why you're always tired, look into caffeine. I think it would be good for students as well to kind of gauge and see for themselves, are my grades going up when I get more sleep, or are they going up when I do all-nighters and take a bunch of caffeine? I think you'll be able to see a huge difference in that. So thank you for watching, and any questions, you can definitely email me. I'll try to put my information on there, but there's tons of studies out there now, and it's up and coming. We're realizing that dependency is actually not very healthy, associated with a lot of other issues, and kind of a precursor to some other stronger substances, alcohol, even some drug usage. So when we're aware of kind of the precursors to some more serious things, it's always good to take in consideration and evaluate them as a possible reason for other long-term health issues. So thank you for listening. Kind of stuffed up here, so sorry if you can't hear me. I try to talk as loud as I can, but have a good day, and I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.